Hello and welcome to Bompas Parr. Do you want to see what's happening in the future? So we at Bompas Parr spend all our time envisaging and then creating how we might be eating and how you might be able to put that in practice in your museums, in your parks, in your attractions, and ultimately give people a delightful time exploring what's on the end of their fork. For this session, I'd love to introduce you to the team who can take it through. And Simon Bompas and started Bompas Parr 13 years ago, and over the last 13 years have been on countless culinary adventures, everything from making a fireworks show that 250,000 people could taste as the fireworks exploded in the night sky, to creating alcoholic architecture where you stepped into a breathable cloud of gin and tonic.
And I'm Alex Hope. I'm the creative strategist here. You may have seen me before present the future of food last year, but essentially my role here is to really cast that gaze into the future, to see what you'll be eating and drinking next. Something that I'm always fascinated by is consumer behaviours and cultural shifts, and really looking at how brands and more importantly attractions can really take those insights and ensure that we're creating future-facing work to ensure we're really going to be a future-proof brand. And that's really why we're here today, is to really cast that gaze into the future.
Hi, I'm Danny. I'm the development chef here at Bompas Parr, and my job is to work with food and beverage and create world fairs and new interesting experiences that activate all of the senses, and then scale that and try to change the way people eat and drink all over the world.
So last year at blooloop, we took you through what attractions can learn from the food and drink industry, and the food and drink industry can learn from attractions. We also ended up with a powerful explosion in PwC. Now everyone's at home this year, we don't get to meet each other, but the advantage is we get to take you into the studio, we get to show you all of our secrets, where we experiment, where we develop things up. And over the course of this program, what we're going to do is look at the total history of food innovation and attractions. We're going to look at some of the things that are the worst things that are happening now, the sort of disgusting things we want to put behind us. We're going to identify some of the trends and opportunities as well, where the business could go. Finally, we're going to go into the kitchen and we're going to show you the things that we're most excited about now, that we're looking to scale up and change the way people eat. Attractions of the past have created some of the greatest food innovations that we know today, and they can again. So we're going to start off by looking at some of the innovations that come from expos, attractions, museums even, places where people get together, and how those historical innovations have shaped how we eat around the world today. The hot dog as we know it today is said to have been invented in the Columbian Expo in 1893. So throngs of people were thrilled by a snappy frankfurter in a luscious, soft milk bun, and we're still eating it today. In fact, so much so that when we charted the phylogeny, that's the family tree of sausages, it was one of the signature ways that sausages are consumed. There have been other examples too. The St. Louis Fair in 1904 was particularly rich in terms of food innovations. One of my favourite was the invention of the ice cream in a cone. So until then, ice cream had been typically served on a penny lick or ceramic dish, and one of the ice cream vendors at the fair found he'd run out of all of his serveware and had a line round the block. So he was able to resolve that by borrowing wafers and waffles from the waffle vendor nearby, and so the ice cream in the cone was invented. Now, there have been many stories about how hamburgers came about, but one of them is also traced back to St. Louis World Fair as well, where a German-born vendor was taking ground meat, making a patty of it and putting it in a bun, and there are a lot of German residents there, and the German residents of St. Louis were known for their fondness for ground meat. A lot of them come from Hamburg, it became known as the hamburger. Finally then, that was the invention of iced tea too, because it was so hot, so sweltering hot. The Indian pavilion where they're serving hot Indian tea, there weren't many takers until they stopped flinging ice in the drink, and people found that iced tea was really rather wonderful too. Many of those concoctions and innovations are still served at attractions and much broadly around the world today, proving their impact and just the potential of what can be done at attractions. Happily, there's some new things that we really like too. So I know that when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opened, there was a 2-hour queue for the sort of A-list rides. There was an 8-hour queue for Olga's Cantina, where you get to feast in the sort of mock Mos Eisley style port. One of the particular brilliant innovations there was the blue milk, the notorious blue milk, which is a sweetened milk concoction. And with it, really what you're doing is you're adding some blue food dye, very, very cheap, to a milk product. I'm sure there's much more artifice behind it, but you're able to achieve selling them for $13, the most incredible GP as well, while also giving people a dish that they can get excited about. It's really photographable. It's something that's very congruent with the whole experience. We also love the art-inspired cakes at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art by pastry chef Caitlin Williams Freeman. And we're actually able to go and cook with her, which was terrific fun, making glow-in-the-dark jellies. What links these really successful versions of food at attractions is they tend to be very congruent with the whole experience, the rationale, the reason why you're there. They're not just filling a hole, they're part of the experience itself. But sadly, not all the food and drink at attractions is so compelling and exciting as this. In fact, there's a lot to be embarrassed about. However, while there's some brilliant examples of food and drink offerings in attraction, there's unfortunately a bad rep that surrounds the industry's food. Perhaps you've not been as innovative as we might have been, as many of the serves are similar to what we've had before. Greasy burgers, soggy chips, and highly sugary desserts are all associated with a day trip to the theme park, whilst bland sandwiches and juices, a few stodgy cakes, are often on the menu at art galleries and museums. This can completely disrupt visitor flow and imagination. Crafted narrative stories are abruptly interrupted by a carton of salty chips in an environment strewn with screwed up napkins and half-used ketchup sachets. It's pretty disgusting. The bottom line, this is a hugely missed opportunity. When planning a day out at an attraction, be it the National History Museum or Alton Towers, customers expect a day of adventure and discovery. As seen at Galaxy's Edge, customers are willing to pay over and above the odds for food and drink that allow them to remain in their fantasy world. There is a watch out though. Changing a menu item can have huge economic consequences. So while McDonald's sells shrimp burgers in Japan, if they were to be rolled out globally and proved as popular as a hamburger, McDonald's could well and truly decimate the entire global population of shrimps. We need to make the right decisions. So what's the opportunity? Alex can take you through some of the areas to focus on that can have real impact at your site.
So we're now on to the opportunity section of today's presentation. So attractions, as we've just heard from Sam, really are fantastic breeding grounds for innovation. The abundance of storytelling, thrills and inspiration that can run through theme parks, museums, zoos, water parks really do make for solid ground for generating food and drink briefs. So what we're going to outline for you now is our top 5 key opportunities within attractions. And then following that, we'll get into the kitchen with Danny and we'll be going through our rad ideas for attractions. So number 1, expanded narrative. So attractions are visited for escapism, be it through thrills on a roller coaster or wandering about an art exhibition. Attractions really offer journeys into fantasy worlds where no one else can. Our studio, Bompas Parr, we believe that every part of a journey really should be considered. So even if you've popped to the toilet, you should still be in your fantasy world. You should still be in your fantasy world. We don't want you to be breaking out of it. You know, you've paid your money to visit an attraction, so why should we stop when you get to the toilet? So one of our most recent favourite examples of really continuing that narrative throughout a journey is actually from Japan. There's a horror toilet in Langunasia amusement park. So here, visitors could take a toilet break whilst continuing the story of, and this is aptly named, the Corona Horror Fest 2020. And it was ensuring that their scream-filled adventure persisted even whilst they were having a toilet break. Now, obviously, that's quite an extreme example, but here you can see it's really important just to keep that narrative journey going, no matter if you're taking a break for the toilet or if you're taking the break for a snack or a drink. And one of these issues to overcome, particularly within theme parks, is that sort of stop-start nature that you get between thrills. And especially when it comes to food and drink breaks. So lunches are often gotten through as quickly as possible, and that's in order to get back to the experience, so to get back to those rides. But what if the food and drink experience was as good, if not better, than the attractions themselves? Now, we had a look online. We were having a look at Harry Potter, so that's the Harry Potter world there. But unfortunately, when we looked at the menu, we printed out the menu here, and the menu on it actually has things like fish and chips, soup, bangers and mash. Maybe not quite what you'd expect when you were visiting the great hall of Harry Potter. But what if you could continue the narrative of Harry Potter through the food that you were eating? So, for example, Harry Potter burgers that have been grilled through the power of lightning. Themed canteens, we obviously know they go a long way. The Harry Potter example we gave you there was great. There's really an opportunity for attractions to really enhance their own IP through food and drink options that continue branding narrative. We actually recently spotted, and I've got the example here, Andy Warhol at the Tate Modern. So Andy Warhol, the exhibition there, you can go there, and then after that you can actually go into a dining experience that has a completely themed menu. So of course you can enjoy Andy's tomato soup. You can enjoy a tuna fish disaster, which it says is inspired by the artist's piece of the same name, when two ladies contracted botulism and died from a tainted can of tuna. But I think you can see here, really the story here is that we need to be continuing those narratives, the narratives that really people are going to theme parks and attractions to gain. They're really wanting to escape into this world of fantasy. And so we really think there is an opportunity to continue that narrative, whether it's for, as I say, the toilet break or food and drink. So our second opportunity, and we can't go through a presentation, of course, without mentioning the pandemic, but our second opportunity here is social distancing. So the pandemic, we know it's brought with it a new set of stringent rules, from remaining a metre away from others. We've got to wear masks, to limiting to numbers of 6. This actually also presents an opportunity for creative problem solving. So within the attraction space, there's actually an even greater opportunity to utilise pre-existing mechanics and adapt them for the food and drink space. So adding a positive spin to those previously outlined rules. Social distancing is actually particularly easy to manage within the food space, as diners already expect some form of queuing. They expect to be sitting in groups of around 4 to 6. In the UK, we're currently living by that rule of 6, whatever that means. But what if we could develop a narrative for 6 people that allows the food and drink experience to be really enhanced for families? We could, as groups of 6 or less are waiting in queues, we could develop narratives for those group of 6 people. You could do things where you're assigning someone in that group of 6 to be the leader and to take their group through that food and drink experience. So really it's about taking these rules and turning them into something much more fun. Earlier on this year, we developed our fluid landscape report, and you may not have seen it, but within that we started talking about how even things like sanitisation can be fun, and particularly within attractions, this is a great space where we can really kind of bring some of those ideas to the fore. So within fluid landscape, we started talking about things like a cloud of cleanliness, so a fog chamber that you can walk through to sanitise you and your party before you go and sit down for a meal. And of course, the 1 metre plus rule, I think that's probably global at the minute, but that doesn't need to be something that's boring. Theme parks in particular can take that rule to the extreme. So for example, you could really add an element of fun with 1 metre long cutlery, giant chairs and tables as well, to ensure that those 1 metre plus rules are being met, but with that added element of fun. So our third opportunity is really looking at food and beverage becoming the attraction itself. So by tying narrative through to any food and beverage offering, this allows F&B to really become an attraction in itself. So food really is a fantastic platform for engaging storytelling, and so why not make cafes, canteens or bars the best experience in themselves? Experiences really can scale as well, so that when food and beverage is an attraction, it can be at table level or it can be a whole bar or canteen takeover. I know that Sam mentioned Galaxy's Edge earlier, and that really is a fantastic example of where food and drink really has become the main attraction. Our fourth opportunity is virtual food. So the virtual world is very much running parallel to the world that we're living in today. I think we've all been on numerous Zoom calls. Obviously this expo itself is virtual, so it's really important that we consider the opportunities that surround digital and food. Within theme parks, there's an increasing number of rides that are utilising VR, and art galleries, AR is being used for information and for storytelling overlays. Many attractions are appropriating digital wristbands as well, or apps for more joined up and targeted experiences. Whilst this is happening, we're seeing more trends also for digital avatars. I know particularly in China, there's a lot of people creating their own sort of virtual counterparts to themselves, and virtual universes as well, also within gaming. So really there is almost like a second world being created that's entirely digital. So here we really see an opportunity where we can start looking at how we can combine both food and beverage and digital. So one of those things is around triangulating journeys, so making use of those virtual visitor journeys. So for example, in Disney, I know you can get a wristband where it allows you to tap into different rides, and if you're staying there, it allows you to tap into your room. But what if we could ensure that our visitors had frictionless fun when it got to the food and beverage experience as well? So can you really use digital to navigate a whole story throughout a whole attraction, ensuring that the food and beverage is very much as a part of the attraction as when you're on a ride. And obviously AR as well, so there's opportunities for any food packaging that you get to have AR quite easily added to it. You could receive a burger box, and perhaps when you get your burger box, you can scan it, and a digital piece can pop up. And obviously virtual food as well, so we were just mentioning virtual avatars and how people have their digital counterpart. But what happens to food when we're in the digital realm? So if we've perhaps gone on a VR ride, what happens to food there? Are we starting to create digital food for our digital avatars? And if we are, what does that look like? So our fifth opportunity, we really believe within food and drinks at attractions, there's opportunity, seasonal refreshment. It's a really simple thing, and the beauty of using food and drink as an attraction means it's relatively easy to update, change the course of an experience through changing menu options. So that can be done seasonally, you can have hot and cold updates. It can be done to coincide with the launch of an exhibition or a ride offering, so that the narrative is expanded through to food and beverage. And naturally this will obviously help with PR talkability of rides, but I think the key thing here is that food and drink it's such an expansive world, and it's such a great opportunity that we can really use it as a tool to encourage return visits if we're making that food and drink the attraction itself, as said before. And then finally, we look at food halls as theme parks. So over the last few years, we've seen a continuing number of food halls pop up over the country as consumers are looking for much more casual dining experiences. So whilst, not overtly an attraction themselves, we're seeing at the minute that more sort of younger groups are heading to food halls at the weekend. It's a place, you can hang out with your friends. So food halls such as Mercato Metropolitano and Pop Brixton allow groups of friends to experience multiple cuisines and experiences within one place. But one problem currently is that those food halls are all fairly similar in their offering, and they lack an overarching narrative to allow the experience to feel truly joined up. So we really believe that there's a huge opportunity with food halls by implementing a narrative journey across a visit, with themed moments throughout. We've got the opportunity for food to really aid fantastical discovery. We really believe that food halls are the modern day attraction for the millennial consumer. With more theming and more kind of narrative, like we were talking about previously, they can be absolutely great places and really become attractions in themselves. So, to summarise our top 5, actually I think we probably had 6 opportunities for the future of food and drink within the attraction space. So we've talked through expanded narrative, so ensuring that storytelling really continues through any food and drink space or even toilet space, as we discussed earlier. We've spoken through social distancing and how that doesn't have to be, just about following rules. It can be super fun and engaging. We've spoken about virtual food and food within the digital realm, and how easy food can make updates and seasonal refreshments. We've also spoken about the huge opportunity that lies around food halls and how food halls are the future of attractions. And that's all really been wrapped up in this key message, which is that food and beverage can be the attraction in the future. And I think we can really summarise all of that by saying that the future of food at attractions, it lies in imagination building, it lies in continued narrative, and finally in elevated experience design. And now on to our rad ideas for attractions. Welcome to the inner sanctum of Bompas Parr, where we divine the future. Our first rad idea for attractions we have called Scream-Fueled Food. So much energy is produced at theme parks, from screams hurtled through the air around roller coasters, to kinetic energy, through to heat being generated from friction. Bompas Parr imagines the future of theme parks to feature circular energy systems to power food and beverage production. Heat can be pulled from roller coaster frictions before being transferred to kitchens. So just imagine a good cup of tea being powered by the heat from the brakes of stealth, or a soda stream being propelled by sound energy from the screams at Oblivion. We really do believe that the future lies within screams, and that scream generating the future energy of food at attractions. So we're here in the kitchen with Danny, and Danny is going to be showing us some fractal desserts today. Now this is all to do with our next prediction, which is to do with visual desserts and visual menus within attractions. So the idea here is this is all about using kinetic energies and kinetic movement in order to deliver people a super exciting experience within whichever canteen or diner they are in within an attraction. It's something that the studio have been experimenting with over the last few weeks, so we're really excited to show you today. One thing that this allows us to do is also look at how we can interact with digital and with social media. So imagine, you're interacting with TikTok, which therefore then interacts with your kinetic dessert. So someone's dancing on TikTok, and then right before your eyes, you see your dessert dance with you. It allows that dessert to jump off of the plate and into your world around you, into that kind of physical and digital world that we're all experiencing today. So now we're going to go over to Danny, who's going to demonstrate these fractal desserts. Okay, so Danny, you're going to show us some fractal desserts and to support what we've just been talking about visual menus and visual desserts in attractions.
Yep. So we're going to look at the fractal sauce, which was created by a restaurant called Arzac in Spain. And basically it's two sugar solutions, and when one goes into the other one, there's a chemical reaction. And I think the best way to show you is just to show you.
Brilliant, I'm excited to see what happens.
Okay, so first of all, we've got a solution of sugar, honey. This has got some xylitol in it, which is a polyalcohol, and then it's also got something called xanthan gum, which is a thickener. And you find that in things like yogurts, protein drinks, milkshakes, and things like that. So first of all, we're going to pour it onto our surface.
Has that got like a sweet taste to it?
Yeah, so it's called a hydromel. So mel is the Latin name for honey. And hydro is water, so it's honey, water, sugar solution, same thing. So just give that a little smear out. Okay. Then over here we've got another sugar solution, but this time instead of honey, it's got some alcohol in there. And then I've added some colouring just so we get a nice visual.
Great.
So first of all, just a few drops.
Wow, that's really like expanding into that liquid.
Yeah, it's almost like a petri dish or something like that. And what we've had to do is remove any bubbles from the liquid because the bubbles stop the reaction happening and those branches being able to creep out. So you can watch it grow before your very eyes.
It sort of looks like coral, I suppose. So I can imagine this being something great for if you've got like a water park and you want to give kids that kind of extra fun dessert so they can create their own coral before your very eyes.
Yeah, I also think it lends itself to kind of like science fiction and space and science and things like that. You know?
It's really pretty.
The studio has also been looking at sci-fi prototyping and what this means for the future of food and drinks at attractions. So some of the greatest sci-fi films have really driven innovation. Take Mad Max's take on diminishing water resources. NASA's chief water expert, Jay Famigletti, has already declared that Mad Max offers a glimpse of our drought-stricken future and that the sweeping dust bowls of the film really aren't that far removed from what California's Death Valley might look like in 50 years' time. We can take inspiration from the film to really inspire the food and drink offerings that might exist within an attraction that looks at that Mad Max film. So food and drink offerings at theme parks can take this sci-fi approach of looking into the future to create problem-solving innovations. This is all about expanding that IP narrative and using that narrative to really drive innovation. Another great example is the Nutrimatic drinks dispenser of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and its ability to work out what drink someone wants through taste bud patterns and neurological signals and producing the drink there and then. It's this system of innovation thinking that will allow us to drive the future of food and beverage for attractions and allow us to really work from that IP to generate the most exciting food and drink briefs.
So we're going to introduce to you today as our next prediction, the world's most transparent restaurant. So this is a concept that Bompas Parr have been ideating over the last few weeks. It's something that we're really excited to introduce to you today. So imagine this is going to be a world first, an entirely transparent restaurant. So the kitchen's transparent, the tables and chairs that you sit on are transparent, and even the food is transparent, which allows for us to create all sorts of lighting extravaganzas in this restaurant. We at Bompas Parr are most well known for our jelly, so we thought the best way to, showcase this transparent restaurant to you today is through the realm of jelly. So Danny is going to, in a moment, we're going to turn down the lights and we're going to talk you through the jelly making process. Just imagine that this jelly is representing that transparent restaurant that we foresee really kind of making a statement in the future of attractions. So something that we've actually been talking about today is obviously making the food as exciting as the thrilling rides or whatever exhibition that you just visited. Food and drink is super important in anyone's day, and what we want to do is really make sure that food is the attraction, and our transparent restaurant will be, we see this as sort of one of the biggest attractions that there could be. So Danny, you're going to talk us through a transparent jelly.
Yeah, we've got one right here. Look at its great wobble. So yeah, it's a vegan jelly. It's made with all natural ingredients. It's got a lovely wobble. And we're now going to pass some light through it and see what happens.
So imagine we're in our transparent restaurant. We're sat on transparent chairs and tables. Everything around you is transparent. And Danny comes up to you with your transparent dessert.
So it's as easy as take an electronic device, screen, get some fancy light show going on, block out the bit that you want, place the jelly on top, and now we're going to turn out the lights.
So the worst part about visiting any theme park is the motion sickness that you can experience after going on epic roller coasters that have got many twists and turns. I know for sure that this always happens to me. However, what if food and drink offerings could in fact help with that impending motion sickness? Something that we imagine is a mind over matter dropper. Now this dropper is something we imagine existing within vending machines throughout parks, situated next to those biggest and baddest roller coasters, the ones that people get really scared of. In order to access the dropper, we envisage that, we've been talking today a lot about digital integration in attractions and in theme parks. Imagine if you've got a digital wristband and that wristband is monitoring your motion sickness. To access the vending machine, we imagine that you can go and tap that your wristband on the vending machine, and then you'll then be dispensed a mind over matter dropper. And so we've got one of those mind over matter dropper bottles here today, which Danny is going to pass me. So you can imagine you get one of these from a vending machine, and this would cure your motion sickness and ensure that your roller coaster experience is the best one it can be. So there we go, it's really simple. Just twist it open and then, tasty.
Finally, there's always a spectacle of fire. All precautions 3, 2, 1. Thanks for joining us at Bompas Parr to explore the future of attractions and food and what we're excited about. We've had great delight in showing you what our visions are. We'd love to speak to you. We're actually doing a Q&A afterwards if you want to join. And there'll be a mega prize for the best question as well.
And so here's the future of food and drink. As I say, we look forward to speaking to you shortly. Come and join us in our virtual booth, obviously throughout blooloop as well, with Bompas Parr, and thank you.
Thank you.